welcome expat community. I am Peter Shinen talking to you with David Hammond. He is a writer and editor for ParadiseUruguayBlog.com. He's also a contributor writer for International Living online and print publications and publisher of several books. And he's living in Uruguay since 2006. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Peter. It's good to be here.
Now, what, if I may ask, what brought you to Uruguay in the first place?
Well, I originally came to Uruguay in 2006, and at the time I was in the real estate industry in Washington State, where I'm from. And the thing that I noticed with real estate is that it's cyclical. It would go up and then it would go down. So you have a few good years, and then you're spending your savings and you're borrowing money and hoping it turns up again. So I decided to learn about different countries, the real estate markets, and tried to find real estate markets that weren't closely tied to the U.S. market, and was going to try to hedge. So I was going to have a referral business and do some investing and consulting in areas outside of the United States. So I was looking around. I went to New Zealand, Panama, went to different places, and Uruguay really caught my attention from a business standpoint because it was a very different cycle. And like Panama, it's pretty closely tied to the U.S. market, most of the investments from the U.S. But in Uruguay, there was more Spanish investment, European investment, there was investment from other Latin American countries, so it really was on a different cycle. And that's what brought me here initially, was for business. But what ended up happening, I ended up kind of becoming infatuated with the culture and the lifestyle that was available here, and then ended up making a move for that. So I came for the real estate, but I decided to live here for the culture.
That's fantastic, being able to travel around like that and finally settling in Uruguay. Now, I know New Zealand also, just kind of a plug, New Zealand apparently, they have their beef industry. They decided that Uruguay was the place to invest in also. So that's kind of an interesting point.
Yeah.
Now, what part of Uruguay do you live in at this time?
I lived in Punta del Este for most of the time. I've been in Uruguay, but just like 6 months ago, I moved to Montevideo. So I've been in Punta del Este, and just recently made the move to Montevideo.
Now, did you move to Montevideo for business purposes, or just you wanted a different scenery?
I actually did it for the cost. I had been doing real estate, and I got into writing full time. Writing was kind of a passion, and I wanted to have a chapter in my life where I could just write. And moving to Montevideo was a downsizing step. So it enabled me to reduce my living costs so that I could afford to write full time.
Yes, and Punta del Este is a very pricey community. It's the cream of you would say for Uruguay. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive now, that's for sure.
Now, where did you live before coming? You mentioned Washington.
Yes.
There was something interesting I came across. You were a merchant marine captain. It seems like a very interesting career. Explain a little bit more about that.
What I did, there's different types of, I was a licensed merchant marine captain, but I didn't operate ships across the ocean. I did smaller vessels, and I worked mainly around Washington State. I was hired to run fishing boats. I ran fishing vessels. I did rescue towing and salvage operations. I ran charter boats and tour boats, and I also did launch service, which is taking the agents and pilots out to the large ships. I also was part of military exercises at times where they would be doing an offshore exercise, and I'd be running a smaller vessel back and forth, excuse me, with support people, supplies, equipment, things like that. So I did that for about it was a little over 10 years. So I was on the water between 240 and 260 days a year. I worked on the water, and I always thought, man, everybody's having fun on the beach. I want to get a job on the land because I felt isolated, but it's, of course, the grass always looks greener, on the other side.
Sure.
They're both good, but I thought, I'm out here on this boat with a bunch of guys and everybody on the beach is having fun. So anyway, I got into construction, and then I got into real estate, and did a little bit of developing, and then I started, looking around, and that's when I started going, this is a cycle, and you do good today, but it's going to go down tomorrow. So I started looking for that way to diversify and to hedge into different markets. I took the National Association of Realtors. They have like a curriculum about learning about international real estate, and I did that and put some study into it. I was actually a trade delegate for the Realtors Association to different places, and so I kind of did my homework and then tried to pick out a place that I thought was interesting, and that's how I came to Uruguay.
Now, you've been living here since 2006. Is there anything about Washington that you miss?
Yeah. Washington was a great place. The things that I miss the most about it are I have an adult daughter who I don't see as often. We Skype regularly, and I see her when I visit. But she's, of course, is the biggest thing that I miss. And then the other things that Uruguayans are not into spicy food so much. So I
Yes.
miss. So like every time I go back to the U.S., I get Mexican food and Thai food. I run out and get my fill of that. So the spicier food, some of the foods that I like, there I miss, and then a little bit with family. But I tell you, the one thing that's nice about Skype, it wasn't like that when I first moved to Uruguay in 2006. My daughter was in a boarding school then, and she was having a bad day at school. Even with the calling cards, it could cost a fortune, to talk about things and what's going on and have that time, which was important to me. But boy, Skype just makes it wonderful. You can see each other and talk, and it's free. So that's been a real really positive change as far as keeping in contact with family.
Yeah, Skype has it made a huge difference. Just calling out business, having that Skype number that has it's fantastic. Being able to call family in the States for us is just it's been great. Whether or not they use Skype all the time or not.
Right.
Now, what at this moment, you would say what encompasses, because you've stayed here since 2006.
Yes.
What is you would say would be that you like the best about Uruguay?
Well, the reason that it was attractive to me was the culture. The Uruguayan culture is very warm but respectful at the same time, and the buses are safe, clean. You go places and do things. People are accommodating, people are polite, but they're also very warm. People touch more, people stand closer, people are less guarded about what they say. They don't worry about getting sued. If they say something wrong, you can have a more relaxed relationship with your doctor and professionals and things like that. And it's an easier going lifestyle, which is typical of a lot of Latin America. One thing that's different about Uruguay is that the population here is it's really mixed. There's people there's a lot of Italians and Spanish are the biggest, but there's black Uruguayans, there's Asian Uruguayans, there's Middle Eastern Uruguayans, and a Uruguayan doesn't look like anything particular. In some other countries, everybody kind of has, the same look. So if you're you could stand out. If you're, Western European descent, or if you were, Asian or something else, you would really stand out. Hey, there's a foreigner. I have a brother who's been living in Japan for 27 years, and he's never going to look like a local. He'll never fit in.
Yes.
So one of the nice things about Uruguay that I like is that if you're looking for a place to integrate and fit in, it's not bad. My brother loves Japan. He wouldn't live anywhere else. I have friends in Bolivia and different places, and they look different, but who cares? They're having a great life. So it's not that big of a deal. But there's something to be said for living in a culture where you visually fit in too, and you're not going to stand out. The other part of that is that almost everybody in Uruguay they're the descendants of immigrants. They're descendants of immigrants who've only been here, for maybe 3 or 4 generations, some a lot less. So they know their immigration story. They know how their parents came from Europe or here or there, what tragedy or crisis brought them to the Americas and how they came to Uruguay. And I believe because of that, it gives people a sensitivity. They're more welcoming to newcomers. You're not so much of an interloper because you're coming into a society of people who are all descendants of immigrants. So I think that makes it easier as far as the integrating process. And then the other thing that I saw for me personally was the ability to live a simpler life. I was self-employed and had a real estate business in the U.S. in Washington State, which I liked, but it's just it just seemed like life was very complicated. My health insurance was very complicated. I had private insurance, and I'd get these long policies, and they'd have changes to your policy, and I get all these regulation changes for my business, and I want to be responsible. There's 400 pages of new regulations, and a third of it nobody can interpret for you, tell you what it means. So there's kind of that. It's just that that bureaucratic jungle that exists in the U.S. And always worrying about having enough money for things. I mean, you could get my health care plan for me and my daughter. I got the best plan you could buy, but there was a $5,000 deductible each. A lot of things they didn't cover. They had a cap on it. So if you got sick, you could need an extra 15 grand,
Sure.
Pretty easily and things like that. So it just felt hard. You made good money, but it just seemed like there was a lot of expenses and a lot of complicated things, to do. And when I came to Uruguay, I saw how I could simplify my life, and I have like a mutualista, the typical healthcare plan here. I pay a monthly fee. It's way lower than I paid in the U.S., and everything's covered. I don't have to worry about something not being covered. It's simple, it's easy, and I can live. Even though Uruguay's got expensive, I can live for a lot less here because I don't own a car. I live without a car. My health care costs are lower. I earn less money, so I pay less taxes. I go to the farmer's market for food. So it depends on how you live. I live in a smaller place. I'm not heating a big place. So for me, where I lived in the U.S., you had to have a car. If you didn't have a car, it would be pretty hard to work, and it was hard to cut costs. But here, I've been able to cut my costs down lower. Anyway, that's enough for that. I'll let you go ahead. And
now your health insurance. If I could ask, we pay I think it's 600 pesos a month. So that's just almost $30 a month for the Comepa, the private insurance here.
Wow.
And but that doesn't include full coverage. It just has ambulatorio, which is
that's just the ambulance service, the service to the hospital.
No, it's not. It's actually, they call it ambulatorio, but it's just we could see a doctor, our own choice of doctor. We could set up appointments there. We see the doctor at the private hospital. It's very nice, but we do not have hospitalization or ambulance service.
Okay.
Now that's 600 pesos a month per person here. What is something for people to have a general idea, full coverage in Montevideo?
There's different plans. There's different hospital plans, and I have the most expensive one. It's actually they call it a mutualista. You can get one like at the Spanish hospital, which has the best equipment in Montevideo. They've got 20 some clinics, I believe, and you could get that for like $110 a month, and it covers everything you need.
That's fantastic. That's just great.
Yeah, you wait a little longer. What I have is a plan at the British hospital, and I pay more. I pay probably about $230, or I pay, part of it's paid in my pay. I'm self-employed, so what they do here that's great is that if you're self-employed, you pay, like in the U.S., you pay your Social Security. Here you also, your health care is covered. So if I wanted to go to the Spanish hospital, I could elect to do that, and then the Social Security I pay for myself covers my total cost at the Spanish hospital. If I'm retired or not working here, then I would just pay the $110 a month, or 99, 110, somewhere around there a month, and it covers everything. I have a plan at the British hospital, and it's good. I don't know that it's any better care than the Spanish hospital, but it's faster and easier, so I pay extra for the convenience. But what I'm allowed to do here is that the government, like in the U.S., you pay for private school, you still got to pay taxes for public school. It doesn't make any difference. But what they do here is they take the money that I pay in for the Social Security, that the estimates for medical care and hospitalization, and pay that to the British hospital. So I just pay the difference. So I just pay a little bit extra. So that works out, really well. I get the, for me, it's worth it. I don't have to, spend an hour and a half, waiting for a doctor. I could just go in and, usually get right in and right out and get things quickly. So I pay a little bit of extra for that.
That's great. Yeah, being that we just came here when we first came here, we didn't have our cedulas yet, and that's whoever doesn't know about that, that's a residency card, a temporary one that is given, and we didn't have that at the time, and we were only able to get the ambulatory with our passports. So that worked out good for us because my wife had to see the doctor several times because she was pregnant at that time. So it worked great. Now, what do you most dislike about Uruguay? If you would, I don't want to say, I think dislike is a nicer word.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is that Uruguay's a slower pace of life, and people are more interested in relationships and people come before other responsibilities sometimes. So it's a very beautiful way to live, unless you're the person who needs to get something done in a hurry, and then you could pull your hair out, and that's kind of the, unless you're at a resort. If you go to a vacation resort, they can make a very relaxed environment for you, while the workers are behind the scenes, working hard and breaking their rears, to make it good for you. But when everybody takes it easy and everybody's relaxed, things take longer sometimes, So people aren't as, it's not things generally. Some things are, but things are generally, as a whole, less efficient than they are in the U.S. People don't worry about efficiency so much. They're more worried about how their colleague feels and them doing a really quick and efficient job. So that's, of course, doesn't apply to everybody, but I think it's fair to say that as a cultural generalization, and it's a good thing, but it can also be a negative, just depending on what you're up to.
Now, Uruguay, for the most part, is a very expensive place to live. If you take working here as a worker,
right,
and their expenses are very close, you would say, to places around the U.S. Now, financially, without getting into too much detail, how have you survived here? Is it just money brought? Have you just basically retired here?
Well, this is the thing, is that things have changed. When I first came, Uruguay was one of the least expensive countries in the world. Like, out of 146 countries, it was like 142, 143 lowest cost. It was cheaper than Ecuador, a lot cheaper than Ecuador. So I came here, it was really, really cheap. You could go out to an incredible dinner with thick linen tablecloths and hors d'oeuvres, steaks, wine, desserts, everything for $18 for two people. In Punta del Este, on the place, on the water. Now that meal would cost a couple $100 in that same place. So costs have really gone up dramatically since I've been here. They really started going up in 2008 and 2009. Just a tremendous amount of money flooded into the region because it was a good place to invest and and everything like that. So the prices have pushed up. That's one of the reasons that I downsized, and I've downsized a lot. I mean, that's what I've done, is I've just personally changed my lifestyle. When I first came here, I ate out whenever I felt like it. Then I ate out on the weekends, and then I eat out even less. And then I shop at the farmer's market, and I don't own a car. And then I just recently moved to Montevideo, where I don't have, in my building in Punta del Este, we had porters, maids, beach attendants. It was on the beach and stuff, and all that costs money. So, I decided that for myself, I would rather be able to write, and have the chapter of my life of writing, and give that up instead of getting back into the real estate again. So for me, it's been downsizing. But you can, with anything, if you look how the locals do it, in Montevideo, I think where people get into trouble is when they come down to any other country and they try to set up their U.S. lifestyle in a new place. In Europe, people use about half the energy in their homes as they do in the U.S. And in Asia, they use about half the energy that people in Europe do. And people in Uruguay are kind of more European influenced, and most people are careful with energy, and you can actually get internet for less here. I got really high-speed internet for a very good price, and if you don't have a lot of air conditioning and stuff, you can get electricity very cheap. They have a special rate for low users, so low users can get good deals. You shop at the ferias. And I know a lot of expats who they live like Uruguayans. They don't own a car, they bicycle, they go to the feria. People here entertain in public areas a lot. There's plazas. A lot of towns in Uruguay, people will meet in the plaza and drink mate and meet their friends. In Montevideo and Punta, they go to the beach and they hang out on the beach. When I was in Punta del Este, they have these beachfront restaurants where a cup of coffee costs $6, and everything goes up from there. And there'd be people sitting there, but right next to it, big open area, and there's people have a picnic and drinking their mate. So I used to go to those restaurants years ago, and I started taking my beach chair and my little ice chest, and take my own little snack down there and talk to friends and hang out and watch the sunset. Yeah, I think I had more fun, doing that. So I kind of just, have become less of a gringo and adopted the local, dishes, because you're right, they make less money. But in the U.S., you think, oh, let's go socialize. Let's go to a restaurant. We socialized over meals, spending money. We're more likely to socialize with a picnic or socialize with. I'm not a big mate drinker, but people drink mate or just meet, or people meet in homes and play games together and do things like that. So it's just. It's a different culture, and there is a culture of entertaining for less money. So that's what I've been doing, just kind of changing my lifestyle.
So for the most part, you've come here basically on semi-retirement. You write a little bit, but for the most part, you haven't had to come here with nothing.
No, I didn't come here with nothing. No, I didn't come here with nothing. No, I came with a comfortable hump, and I'm living off my writing, but that's something I'm just starting to do. It's like it was a goal to be able to do that. So yeah.
So if someone was coming to Uruguay without any without that sack of money, what would you tell them? Being that you've lived here for since 2006, you've seen a lot of probably expats coming here, some in retirement, some not. What would you tell them?
Well, it depends. If you're retired, you better have an income from abroad. It's a good place to live because you can get your retirement pension brought in. They don't tax that here, so you can live in Uruguay, get your Social Security, your pension sent here, live on that. That's great. If you need to work, I've seen a lot of people do it, and I've seen a lot of people say it's impossible to do. If you're going to do it, like I met, there was a woman, she came down, and they do it like a new immigrant, they don't do it like a vacationer setting up house, Mm-hmm. So I met a woman, she came down, she wanted to learn the thing, she started learning Spanish, she got a job at a Spanish school, she got her board and a little money with that. Then she got another little job and she practiced her Spanish, and she got did all her cedula work all on her own. And then she started getting connected and started getting a lot of jobs, and she just, basically made herself employable. But she basically became more Uruguayan. She learned Spanish. She made friends with Uruguayans and people in things that she was interested in, and socialized with them, and just basically like a new immigrant would, got into that. So there's a lot of ways that people can do it. There's people like that I know that want to make U.S. wages. They do it. Maybe they get a they work at the people who I meet and know that make first world money here are people who work in embassies, people who work in people work for universities doing projects here. International companies will have they'll have a division here, and people will work in that division here. So you could find an international company that has a presence here. I've actually met people after 9/11. A lot of people who weren't born in the U.S. couldn't get jobs in the financial sector because they weren't hiring anybody foreign born for a while. I don't know if that's still in effect or not, but they had actually had their Ivy League degrees and came to Uruguay to get jobs at international banks here and start here because they couldn't get in the U.S. So, people do a lot of things. They get into banking, professional jobs. I know people that have come here. They've started, self-employed. They do property management, property administration. I know people that have set up, English schools, teaching people English. Usually the best opportunities that are, teaching businesses. There's people who get jobs in the call centers in Montevideo, teaching, U.S. accents and slang terms and things that you don't learn, when you're learning classrooms English here and stuff like that. But the big thing is that if you want to come here and start a new life, a lot of people from Spain are doing it right now. The unemployment rate in Spain is close to 50% for people under 30. It's huge.
I read that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and a lot of people from Spain are coming here and getting jobs, and they're saying, you know what, the wages aren't so high, but you don't need a car. But my health care is included in my, full health care is included in my as part of my employment package, and there's that culture of not needing to spend so much, that keeping up with the Joneses in here. So if you wanted to come and start a life, my biggest thing would be get rid of debts, get rid of payments. Like people move here and they've got, I'm paying $125 for my storage unit back home, and I've got this bill and that bill, and they've got $600 worth of bills before they get out the door. That makes it really, really hard to do. If you have if you don't have debt and you don't have bills when you come here, then you can live cheap. Maybe you'll get like that woman who got the place to stay to start out with, and take what you can get and start learning the language and just start, living like an immigrant, like a new immigrant, and learn the culture and get connected, just like people do when they move to any new country. And there are people here, I think that, like maids and construction workers, things that don't have as much education, don't pay a lot, but if you have some skills, I think the average wage in Uruguay now is about $1,300 a month, if you take the whole country together. And people who are professionals, who work in banks or union jobs, or or you have a specialized skill, some of them make quite a bit more than that. And if you're working in a job, your health care is taken care of and stuff. So it's doable. But you kind of have to leave your expectations about living a U.S. lifestyle. And what was that thing that I really liked it? It was Stephen Covey. I think it was his Principle 5. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood. And I think that's a good principle when you go to a new place, is to take some time to really kind of figure out how things work, and how people live. So, kind of adopting how people live here, and then coming without debt, I think, are the two big keys.
And coming and really jumping on the language too, probably also. That would be very, very important.
Yeah, it is, and that's something that I haven't done as good as I should have. I get by, but the problem with writing and working in English, I think in English and write in English, but yeah, Spanish. If you want to get a job and you get in the culture, that's probably that's something you could do before you started, before you came, and start learning Spanish, and that would be, like you say, a great thing to do.
Now, the Western, kind of the American lifestyle is a busy go lifestyle. Now Uruguay has always prided themselves in being more of a tranquil, as they say, tranquilo country. Have you noticed a shift happening since you first came here? Has a younger generation become more go, or are they consistently sticking to the more tranquilo living?
The culture's changed. The biggest change has been television, cell phones, greater internet access and, the cultural icons, some of them which I don't care for, if nobody here had ever heard of Justin Bieber, it wouldn't bother me at all. But anyway, that kind of stuff is coming, So and people have more money, which is a good thing. It's good that people have more money to spend, but kind of that homogenization of culture, I don't really care for, because I think Uruguay had one of the best cultures, in the world. So yeah, things are changing. I don't know. I think that there's a little more materialism and maybe a little bit more, busyness, but still a lot less than the United States. I think there's people are more materialistic, but much less the United States. People are here. You know what? They really do. They value their free time more than overtime pay. Most people I know, they would love to have the overtime pay, but not at the sacrifice of not being with their family on Saturday or something like that. So I think that here, that I would say that the family time is really high value to them, and they would rather live with less and then sacrifice that. So I think that's a cultural standard that's been maintained.
And you think that will be maintained in the future, at least for a while?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I think that like you mentioned, the world's changing, but I've seen that. I've seen a lot of changes here, but the family's big here. That's the big stabilizing factor is family. And I know a woman who moved here just less than a year ago, and she moved here just for the culture. She has a daughter who's 12 years old, and she just loves this culture, for her daughter, and because it's less, competitive and less mean. I guess, kids in the U.S. can be pretty mean. They say, oh, that's the way kids are, but it's not, It's not that way here. When I first came here, teenage rebellion, there was no teenage rebellion. Those are constructs. They're not just the way it is. And that's one of the things that I really liked about the culture was kind of that harmony, that the family still maintains. So it's being challenged by media because kids watch shows, with that kind of that bad boy teenage rebellion, and then the girls seem to like it on TV. So maybe they'll like it here. I'll give it a try. See if it works here. But so there's a little bit of that, but still, I think that the family's really big here, and that's one of the things that even though my family's not here, I just really admire that culture and like living in a country where that culture's prevalent.
How difficult have you found it to be for foreigners, talking around with people and building relationships with other expats? How hard has it been to start a business in Uruguay, would you say?
Well, it depends on what kind of business. People have all different experiences, and the thing that's difficult here that from my observations is that the employment issues are different. The laws are different. The expectations of labor is different, and sometimes if you're a foreigner, there's a little different. Adds a little spin to the relationship that's a little different. So if some businesses do really good here. Like if you work online, you got an online business, you got really fast. Uruguay has the fastest, least expensive internet for what you get anywhere in Latin America. And they've had, I haven't, checked recently, but they've had some pretty good tax deals for people who want to start online businesses. So if you had an online business and you had, your workers were different parts of the world and you're working online, something like that could work really good. If you're going to work, if you want to open a restaurant and have a dozen employees, I would say work in a restaurant for a year and really learn what the customer and the employee expectations are, because they're going to be very different than what you think. Very different than what you're used to in the U.S. And you kind of have to live that to get it. Farming is done really good. People have more capital, want to invest in farmland's done really good. I've seen some people, they've started businesses where it's them and a few expats, or people from their home country, start a little business and do very good. So but it's different. Anybody who would want to come. But what I would say, if you want to start a business, is instead of having an idea, I've got to come up with something that nobody's doing. Actually, you're safer to do something that's proven, that's working, that a lot of people are doing and works. and because you could have an idea, but maybe the tax structure doesn't work for it, or maybe the labor isn't going to be affordable enough for it, or it's hard to know. But if you do something that a lot of people are doing and is working, and then put your own twist on it, your own turn, maybe it's just a little higher. Higher level of customer service, a lot of times that'll make a business successful. So I'd say, it's a general question, but look around and see what's working. Do what's already working is the safest way to do it, and then start slowly and let the business grow naturally.
Yes, I've noticed that here in Uruguay, at least where we're at right now. They're very stubborn. Anything new, they're very cautious. You take a white zucchini and you try to introduce them to a dark zucchini. They don't. A lot of them, they stick to what they know.
Right. Yeah.
They know it, and then they're comfortable. They're happy to just get the same one. They don't want to try something new. Not everybody, but I'm saying
right.
where we're at.
That's what I've seen people try to introduce a new type of cuisine and stuff, and it doesn't go over. So you have to. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right, Peter. That's the deal. Is that you don't know what people are going to accept and what they're not going to accept.
Now, do you have we're kind of in closing here. Do you have any projects that you're working on that you would like to maybe give a shout out to everybody to watch out for, or?
No, nothing right now. I kind of have taken some time off from the blog. I'm going to try to get back and put more on that, and that's pretty much it. Just keep on keeping on.
And how can someone find you if they wanted to get in contact with you or check you out? Where would they go?
The best place is my blog at paradiseuruguayblog.com.
Well, David, I appreciate your time and speaking with me, and wish you the best success, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, it was good talking to you, Peter, and best of luck to you.
Alrighty.
Thank you.